The arena was deafeningly silent, down by 22 points, under 8 minutes left on the clock. Millions of fans watched in disbelief, assuming the magic was over. And then, in one unforgettable, breathtaking flurry, the entire sports world changed. The comeback was sparked, the sweep was sealed, and a 27-year curse was shattered.
Oh man, what a moment.
Welcome to HAUP Sports. Join Jordan and Jamie as we uncover the biggest stories in sports. From legendary performances and shocking controversies to locker room drama, trades, rivalries, and the moments that redefine the game. We dive deep into the stories behind the athletes, teams, and headlines shaping the sports world.
It really is a moment that redefines absolutely everything we thought we knew about this franchise.
I mean, I was looking through the CBS sports recaps this morning, just trying to make sense of what we all actually witnessed.
Good luck with that.
Right. Because right now, the entire sports world is obsessing over one headline. Knicks revealed the secret behind 11 straight wins.
It's just wild to even say out loud.
We are talking about a historic 4-game sweep of the Cleveland Cavaliers in the 2026 Eastern Conference Finals, their very first trip to the NBA Finals since 1999. So we want to take you on a deep dive today to figure out exactly how they built this absolute machine.
Yeah, both on the court and in the front office.
Exactly. We've got data from Basketball Reference, institutional analysis from Babel Insight, reporting from The Guardian, Sports Illustrated, the AP. We are looking at everything.
And, to really understand how this machine operates at peak efficiency, you kind of have to look at the exact moment the engine almost stalled out completely.
Oh, you're talking about the start of the series?
Yeah. Because before we can talk about this massive streak of dominance, we have to talk about how this series was nearly derailed before it even found its footing.
Which brings us right to Game 1 at Madison Square Garden.
Yep.
If you were watching, you know the Knicks looked completely dead in the water. I mean, they had been sitting around for 9 days after sweeping the 76ers.
The rust was so obvious.
Incredibly obvious. Their legs were heavy, the shots were short. Fast forward to the fourth quarter, 7 minutes and 52 seconds left on the clock.
Here we go.
They are trailing the Cavaliers 93-71, down 22 points in the fourth quarter of a conference finals game. Usually, that is when you start pulling your starters and thinking about Game 2.
Oh, 100%. It's the ultimate crisis moment.
Mm-hmm.
But that is exactly when we saw this crazy tactical shift that altered the entire postseason.
Right.
The Knicks didn't just tell their guys to play harder. They actually fundamentally changed the geometry of the court. They deployed this massive high-intensity trap.
Okay, stop right there, because I want to make sure we get into the how of this.
Sure.
Why trap Donovan Mitchell in that specific moment, and how does that actually change the game?
Well, think about it this way. Donovan Mitchell is the engine of the Cleveland offense, right? Everything flows through him.
Yeah, he's the guy.
So by bringing 2 defenders up high to trap him near the half-court line, you're essentially turning the sideline into a third defender.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You force him to pick up his dribble and pass the ball to a secondary player out of just sheer desperation. You're completely denying Cleveland their primary weapon.
And forcing role players to make rapid-fire decisions under extreme duress.
Exactly. And it forced a string of crucial turnovers.
But getting the ball back is only half the battle, right? How did they suddenly start scoring at will to close a 22-point gap?
That is where the offensive counterpunch comes in. Once they forced the ball out of Mitchell's hands and got possession, Jalen Brunson just went hunting.
Right.
He relentlessly isolated and attacked James Harden.
Now, James Harden's obviously a legend, but why target him right then?
Because late in a high-stakes game, after playing really heavy, exhausting minutes, a player's lateral quickness, their ability to slide side to side and stay in front of a shifty guard, drops significantly.
Sure, the fatigue sets in.
Right. And Harden's lateral quickness late in games becomes a glaring vulnerability. The Knicks recognize that heavy-legged fatigue and just systematically abuse the matchup.
I mean, Brunson would literally call for a screen specifically to get Harden switched onto him, right?
Yeah, and then you just attack his feet. This dual strategy, trapping Mitchell on one end and attacking Harden on the other, it's marked an unbelievable 18-1 run.
To put a 22-point deficit with under 8 minutes left into perspective, it's like giving an Olympic sprinter a half-lap head start, tripping on your shoelaces, and somehow still passing them at the finish line.
It's absurd. They didn't just beat Cleveland's system in those final minutes. They broke the system entirely.
Totally broke it. Landry Shamet hits a massive corner 3 to cut the lead. And then the sequence everyone is replaying on social media right now.
Oh, man, the bank shot.
Yes. Brunson drives left, gets Harden on his hip, and hits this ridiculous bank shot right over him with 19 seconds left to tie the game at 101.
You can actually see the psychological damage of that sequence on the Cavaliers' faces. Like, the moment overtime started, Cleveland was already defeated mentally.
They looked shell-shocked.
They were. The Knicks opened OT on a 14-3 run, ultimately winning 115-104. Brunson finishes with 38 points. McCall Bridges adds 18. According to CBS Sports, this was the biggest fourth-quarter playoff comeback in the last 30 years, going all the way back to the Clippers rallying against Memphis in 2012.
Donovan Mitchell's post-game reaction really said it all. He stood at the podium looking completely stunned and just said, "That can't happen." But it did.
It's brutal.
It really is. Game 1 was a miracle. But here's where it gets really interesting, because the actual secret behind this 11-game winning streak wasn't drawn up on a whiteboard in the fourth quarter.
Nope.
It was drawn up in a boardroom 3 years ago. We'll unpack that next.
Yeah, we have to leave the court and go back to the summer of 2022.
Absolutely. But real quick, if you're loving these sports deep dives, make sure you're subscribed. We've got even bigger stories coming up. So take us back to 2022. What was the master plan?
Well, the bold headline here is actually the blockbuster trade that New York didn't make. Back in 2022, Knicks president Leon Rose was under immense, crushing public pressure. Donovan Mitchell was on the trade block in Utah, and the entire basketball world expected the Knicks to cash in their chips and bring the hometown star to Madison Square Garden.
I remember that vividly. The narrative was that the Knicks always strike out on stars, and they finally had the assets to get one.
Exactly. But Rose refused to surrender R.J. Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, and a massive package of unprotected first-round picks.
So Utah eventually traded Mitchell to Cleveland instead.
Yep. And Babel Insight actually highlighted this in their recent front office breakdown. Rose was heavily criticized for it at the time. The media said he lacked aggression, that he was too timid to make the big splash.
Wait, I have to challenge that a bit. Was it really a masterclass in patience, or did the Knicks just get lucky that better deals materialized later? Because at the time, keeping Barrett and Quickley felt like a massive consolation prize.
It's a fair question, but if you look at the domino effect, the intentionality becomes super clear. It's all about opportunity cost and asset management.
Okay, break that down for me.
By keeping those specific assets, Leon Rose preserved the precise transactional flexibility required to build the current roster. Because they kept Barrett and Quickley, they were able to package them to Toronto a year later to acquire OG Anunoby.
Securing one of the most elite, versatile wing defenders in the entire league.
Exactly. And because they preserved their stockpile of draft picks, they had the capital to trade with Brooklyn for McCall Bridges.
Adding yet another elite perimeter defender. Wow.
Right.
Let's unpack this. So the secret to sweeping Cleveland wasn't just having the best players. It was the sheer discipline to not make a panic trade for Cleveland's best player, Donovan Mitchell, 2 years ago.
That's the wild part.
They basically used the assets they saved to build the perfect machine to shut him down.
It's incredible irony. And the financial gymnastics are just as impressive. By avoiding Mitchell's massive contract back in 2022, they kept their salary cap clean enough to sign Dante DiVincenzo in free agency.
Who was huge for them.
Oh, he played brilliantly, shot the lights out, which dramatically boosted his trade value.
Which matters because in the NBA, trades aren't just about swapping talent. The salaries have to match, right?
Precisely. You can't just absorb a superstar making $40 million. You have to send out roughly the same amount of money in return.
Right.
Because DiVincenzo was on a highly valuable contract, the Knicks were able to use him as the primary salary matching piece to execute the blockbuster trade for Karl-Anthony Towns from Minnesota.
Boom!
Yeah, they built a complete two-way juggernaut, elite defense on the wings, elite spacing from the center position, and they did it without completely emptying their asset cupboard.
That is fascinating. But having the right pieces is only half the battle. How they deployed them in games 3 and 4 completely broke Cleveland's spirit, and that's not even the craziest part.
No, the transition from the front office architecture to the on-court execution is where this team really separated themselves from the rest of the league. Because they didn't just sweep this series.
No, they didn't.
They annihilated Cleveland.
Let's talk about the sheer math of it because it is staggering. This 11-game playoff win streak features an average margin of victory of plus 23.7 points.
It's video game numbers.
It really is. Over these 11 games, they have outscored their opponents by 262 total points, We are looking at one of the most dominant stretches of playoff basketball in league history.
And in closeout games this postseason, they've been utterly merciless. They beat Atlanta by 51 points to close the first round.
51.
Then Philly by 30 to close the second. And then we get to games 3 and 4 in Cleveland.
Game 3 was a 121-108 win where Landry Shamet just caught absolute fire. I mean, he hit 3 three-pointers in a 99-second span in the fourth quarter. It was like watching a game on easy mode.
Totally.
But Game 4, man. Game 4 was a 130-93 closeout, a 37-point destruction on the road. How does a team that almost lost Game 1 completely dismantle an opponent like that a week later?
It was a systematic dismantling, and it all comes down to systemic evolution under head coach Mike Brown.
Right, the new system.
Yeah. Cleveland actually came out aggressive in Game 4, trying to save their season in front of their home crowd. Donovan Mitchell scored their first 8 points.
But the Knicks just absorbed that initial punch.
They did. And then they delivered a devastating 20-0 run over 4.5 minutes, stretching from the late first into the early second quarter.
A 20-0 run in an elimination game is practically unheard of. What was the specific mechanic that allowed them to score 20 unanswered points? Like, what was Mike Brown doing differently?
It's all about the secondary break.
Okay, explain that.
When Mike Brown took over, he implemented this high-octane, spacing-oriented system. A traditional fast break is when you get a steal and go in for an uncontested layup. Right?
Yeah, standard stuff.
But a secondary break happens when the defense manages to sprint back, but they aren't fully organized yet. Instead of pulling the ball out, slowing down, and calling a set play, which is what the Knicks used to do, Brown's system demands that the trailing players immediately flow into an offensive action while the defense is still backpedaling and confused.
Oh, so they are attacking the chaos. Before Cleveland can even figure out who is guarding who, the Knicks are already shooting.
Exactly. You are attacking a defense that is retreating, not a defense that is set. It requires incredible conditioning and constant pressure. In Game 4, the Knicks scored 65 combined fast break and second chance points.
That's insane.
They had a 33-9 advantage on the fast break and a 32-5 advantage in second chance points.
You just can't win a professional basketball game when you are getting out-hustled and outrun to that extreme degree. It completely drains your physical and mental energy.
Definitely.
Cleveland's coach, Kenny Atkinson, looked exhausted in his press conference. He just shrugged and said, "They're on a heater."
Yeah, when a team is playing elite, suffocating defense and relentlessly running the floor on the other end, it creates this heavy feeling of inevitability.
And you could feel that inevitability bleeding into the arena. The culture surrounding this team right now has taken on a life of its own. It's so cinematic.
Oh, it really has.
If you were watching Game 4 on TV, the arena in Cleveland was completely taken over by Knicks fans. With 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, you could hear these massive echoing chants of Knicks in 4 inside an opposing team's stadium. It was surreal.
Landry Shamet was actually joking about it in the locker room, saying Knicks fans are a specific species of human who just travel everywhere.
It essentially turned a road closeout game into a home game. And the celebrity presence is reaching peak 1990s levels.
It really is.
You had Spike Lee courtside in Ohio, who, by the way, is having an unbelievable sports month since his favorite soccer team, Arsenal, just won the Premier League.
Good for him.
Right. You had Tracy Morgan, Timothy Chalamet, and Kylie Jenner all making the trip to Cleveland. It is the place to be.
And you can see that frenzy reflected in the local economy and the ticket market.
Oh, it is out of control. I was reading a piece in The Guardian, and resale tickets for Game 3 of the finals, which will be the first game back at Madison Square Garden, are already listing for up to $105,000 for courtside seats.
That is just absurd.
$105,000. And for the away games. 5,000 fans packed a sold-out Radio City Music Hall just to watch Game 4 on a movie screen. The city hasn't felt this alive, this universally united around basketball, since 1994.
It creates a really striking contrast when you look at their local hockey rivals, too.
Oh, the Rangers.
Yeah, the Rangers famously shared that magical 1994 aura with the Knicks when they both went to the finals, but they've actually missed the playoffs the last 2 years after their own deep runs.
Whoa, yeah.
It serves as a stark reminder of how fragile championship windows are in pro sports. Sustaining contention is incredibly difficult, which makes the sustainable roster Leon Rose built even more impressive.
So the East is officially conquered, but up next is the final boss. And it presents a terrifying tactical nightmare for New York. We'll break down the looming finals clash in just a second.
Wait.
Stay tuned and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter in the sports world as we gear up for the finals. So, looking ahead, what's the landscape?
Well, the biggest advantage the Knicks have right now is time.
Right. They have over a week to rest those legs before Game 1 tips off. Meanwhile, an absolute bloodbath is happening out west. The Western Conference Finals between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the San Antonio Spurs is currently tied 2-2.
Just two heavyweights exhausting each other.
Exactly.
And those two teams present vastly different tactical challenges for New York. It is going to be a fascinating chess match either way.
Break it down for me. If they play OKC, what happens?
If they end up facing Oklahoma City, they have to deal with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the back-to-back MVP.
He's unbelievable.
He is. The Thunder play a lightning-fast, depth-heavy transition offense. To beat OKC, the Knicks would have to essentially beat them at their own game, limiting those secondary breakpoints we talked about earlier and heavily dominating the defensive glass to control the tempo.
So contrast that with the Spurs. What does this all mean for a guy like Karl-Anthony Towns? If they play San Antonio, you are suddenly dealing with the terrifying interior length of 7'4" Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, that's a whole different problem.
How do you attack a guy who can block a shot without even jumping? Does Towns' ability to shoot from the outside, like going 3 for 3 from deep in Game 4, does that become the ultimate weapon to drag Wembanyama away from the basket?
You've hit on the exact tactical pressure point that every analyst will be watching. Wembanyama's rim protection is generationally great. He lives in the paint, and you simply cannot challenge him at the summit.
Right, it's a block party down there.
But if Towns acts as a floor-spacing 5, meaning a center who stands out at the three-point line instead of in the paint, Wembanyama is forced into an impossible choice.
Because if Wemby steps out 25 feet to guard Towns, the paint is suddenly wide open for Jalen Brunson to drive.
Exactly. But if Wembanyama decides to stay back in the paint to protect the rim, he is giving an elite 40% three-point shooter in Karl-Anthony Towns wide-open looks all night long.
Wow.
The Knicks roster construction, specifically cashing in those chips for Towns, seems almost tailor-made to exploit that exact defensive dilemma.
It's brilliant. They haven't just built a good team, they have built a chameleon. They can adapt to entirely different styles of play. They can run and gun with the Thunder, or they can systematically space out the Spurs.
And that adaptability is the true mark of a championship contender.
Yeah.
They aren't relying on one player's heroics every single night. They are relying on a robust system, incredible conditioning, and a deeply versatile roster.
Which brings us to a really deep, almost poetic reality about this incredible 11-game streak.
Oh, yeah?
We spent a lot of time today exploring how head coach Mike Brown took over and completely revolutionized the Knicks system. Well, if you know your basketball history, Mike Brown actually led the Cavaliers to their very first Eastern Conference crown way back in 2007 when LeBron James was just starting out.
That's right, 19 years ago.
19 years later, he reaches his second finals as a head coach by walking right back into Cleveland and ruthlessly sweeping his former franchise out of the playoffs on their own floor.
That is wild to think about.
It really makes you wonder, does true redemption in sports require destroying your own past?
That's a profound thought to end on.
You've been listening to HAUP Sports, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping the world of sports. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the game alive.